Alrighty, so match week number 18 is upon us, and for most team, they have now officially hit the halfway point of the season, as most team will be playing their 17th game by the end of this week. Some team are going to be playing their 18th game by this week, so technically they're already in the second half of the season. But for match week number 18, we have once again full slate of MLS action with 12 games happening in the busy Saturday night slate, and then we're going to have two games that's going to be happening on Sunday, one in the daytime and one late night. But we start off with the first one, which is Atlanta United versus DC United. This is going to be the first of six games that's going to start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Atlanta 6-7-4, while DC 6-5-6. And in terms of the all-time meeting, 8-0-6 in favor of Atlanta United. Now, looking at injuries for both of these teams, because it's always good to see some of the injuries that they have. Well, actually, that's probably not the right way to phrase it, but obviously, with some of these teams, you can say that maybe the reason why they haven't played very well is because they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. But that kind of isn't the case for Atlanta. The only player that is out is Eric Lopez and Santiago Sosa. Questionable coming into this game is Ozzy Alonso and Amaz Sejdic. There's even word that Alonso could potentially be back to this team. He's been playing with the MLS Next Pro team a couple of times recently. For DC, they don't have Martin Rodriguez, Nigel Roberta, Jay Haas, Juan Russell Canals, and Mooney. So obviously DC, they've been going for a bit of an inconsistent form. Maybe a lot of that has to do with some of their key pieces not being available in this one. But yeah, this should be an interesting one. I mean, I just feel like, should you call this a desperation derby? I mean, it's a game where I know for Atlanta, after getting that miraculous draw against LAFC, thanks to Brett Guzan in a whole way, that they would love to get themselves back into winning ways, and then DC, after getting that big win against Miami, it seems like they were kind of heading the wrong direction, but then they got that big win against Inter Miami and kind of found themselves in an inconsistent way. They also want to get a win in this one, but it should be interesting. And I will say this: this is going to be an entertaining game, because one thing about Atlanta United game this season is no matter how Atlanta United play, they're going to be playing some very entertaining game. It could be a high scoring affair, or it could be like in the last game where somehow the goalkeeper single handedly bailed them out and stole a point against LAFC. Then we move on into the next one, which is Charlotte FC versus the Seattle Sounders. So Charlotte 6-3-8, while the Sounders 8-3-6. And for the Sounders, they desperately need a win. Though, yeah, going to Charlotte is not going to be an easy place. Although I will say that Charlotte has had some issue this season at home. They haven't won as much home games as they would love to do this season. But in terms of the all-time leading, only one prior meeting, the Sounders won that one. And in terms of injuries for Charlotte, you got Enzo Capetti, Kamel Josviak, and Hamadou Diam not available. And for Seattle, no Jordan Morris in this one. Questionable in this one is Ethan Double Air, but notice Christian Rodon is not in the injuries out list anymore, as he is able to return back in the team. Well, not in the starting 11, but did came off the bench in the last game, and that should really help the Sounders team. You can clearly see they missed that his presence on the attack, and yeah, this should be a very interesting one. And again, this is a game that even though the Sounders are sitting pretty in the standings, when you look at the run of form that they've been on, it has not been good whatsoever. And for Charlotte, they kind of started to become a little bit inconsistent after having a good run of form the past month, and that's something that Christian Latanzio will try to fix, especially with the way that they want to do a lot better this season at home. They've had their struggle this season at home at Bank of America Stadium. But moving on, we got Montreal versus Minnesota. So Minnesota 5-5-6, while Montreal 6-1-9. And in terms of the all-time meeting, the Loons actually have beat Montreal all three times that they have played. They had a couple of 3-2 draws against Montreal, and I believe Minnesota also won like 3-0 against Montreal at one point. Either way, this has been an opponent that Minnesota loves to play, and there's a chance that they can get a win again in this one, because as I mentioned, with this team, there is definitely some good optimism and some cautious optimism, as I said, with the way that this team, eventually that expectancy goal that they've been getting so high for the last couple of games is going to show up, and especially not to mention getting Reynoso back into this team. That's definitely create a huge boost in this one. And they're playing against a Montreal team that, yeah, obviously they'll be very, very frustrated of losing the Canadian Championship Finals, and now they're gonna have to trying to get over that and have to travel all the way across the other side of the country on a short week, and that's gonna be difficult. But one thing I will say about Montreal this season is that they have been a tough team to beat and when they're playing at home. I mean, they've only lost once this season at home, though. Again, you could also argue the same for Minnesota. I mean, this team has also been a very good road team this year, which is kind of unexpected because Minnesota has never been known to be a good road team. Though I can also understand it in the way that when you look at the structure and the grind out kind of mentality that Adrian Heath has been going through ever since Reynoso is working on his way back to this team, that it kind of makes sense that why they're getting these role reserved. Though that being said, in terms of injuries, still no Samuel Piet, Mason Toy, and Ramel Kyoto in this one. While for Minnesota, Debasi is still out, followed by Ryan Gitman, Robin Led, and Michael Marquez. And questionable in this game is going to be Kamar Lawrence, which it would be interesting to see whether or not if he can be back in the starting 11, especially with the way that DJ Taylor has had his struggle filling in that role for the past couple of games. But yeah, it should be an interesting one. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic that the Loons can win this one. But like I said, Montreal this season they've been very good at home, and I think that's kind of what kept them alive right now in the playoff conversation, because we know on the road they suck, but when it comes to their home form, it's been really good. They've only lost once, as I mentioned, this season at home. Then we go to New England. They play against Inter Miami. So this is a matchup between the Revs, who is 7-6-3, and Miami 5-0-11. Now keep in mind, when both of these teams met each other for the first time, it was Miami getting the surprise victory against New England. So throughout the season, I've talked about how the Revs have done a very good job in terms of dispatching against weaker team. Well, that seems like it hasn't been the case recently. Though, again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're fighting with a lot of injuries right now on in their team. But in terms of the all-time meaning, 3-0-2 in favor of Inter Miami. And when you look at the injury list, yeah, a lot of key players out for New England. No Dylan Barrero, he's done for the season. Brendan Bai, Nacho Hill, Henry Kessler, Maciel, and Tommy Mack also not available in this one. For Miami, Gregory, of course, done for the season. Same with John Mota. And then Rodolfo Pizarro still working his way back. Questionable in this one is Robin Robinson and Cordon John, though most likely we won't see Robbie Robinson anytime with this team. In fact, there's already talks the fact that they're looking to cut him, and that's a shame, because when Robbie Robinson was with this team for the first couple of seasons, I thought there could be some potential and he could be a decent some attacking option for this team, and injuries just kind of ruined him. He's been having so many injury setbacks to a point where Miami just kind of had to cut losses. But yeah, this is a game that, again, for Inter Miami, they definitely want to get themselves some reserve before the who is going to arrive to this team and trying to rescue them to propel them up in the standings. But it's not going to be easy because, again, they're facing against a Revs team that, although the Revs has had injuries concerned, this is definitely a winnable game, especially at home, especially against a Miami team that, yeah, they have not played well whatsoever in the last couple of weeks. Not even when Javier Morales came in that game against DC, they didn't even look good at all. Though again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that they had a man down just 9 minutes in or not even 9 minutes. I think it was only 7 minutes when Kamal Miller, of course, was sent off, and now that they lost him for this game too, because of red card suspension. Yeah, this could be a rough game for Inter Miami in this one. But moving on, we got Orlando City versus Colorado. So yes, this is the opportunity for Orlando City to finally show that they can actually win two in a row, because they're playing against a team that is the worst in the, well, actually not the worst, but second worst in the Western Conference, and are just going through a complete free fall. That is the Colorado Rapids with a 2-7-8 record, while Orlando 6-5-4. And in terms of the all-time meeting, they do lead the all-time meeting 5-2-2. Now, players that is out for Orlando, Gaston Gonzalez, Salim, and questionable is Luca Petraccio. For Colorado, no, their captain Jack Price out for the season. Rodriguez, Diego Rubio, and Max also out for this game. Questionable in this one is Michael Barrios, Brian Galvan, and Ralph Triso. But like I said, for Orlando, this is the opportunity for them to get a win at home. This is kind of the struggle that they've been going through this season, where it's been inconsistent them form, but mostly, it's always when they follow a big road win and looks like maybe things were gonna turn around, and then they just come out completely flat and end up losing at home. And honestly, if they lose this one, there's got to be huge concern for Orlando City fans again, because it's one thing to be inconsistent, but this is against a team that has been struggling right now. That is the Colorado Rapids, and a team that also has not done well on the road. Well, to be fair, they haven't done well at home or on the road this season. So you got to say this is a huge opportunity for Orlando City to finally climb over the mountain that they have not been able to climb this season, and that of course is get on a bit of a mini winning streak. I mean, it might be only 2 games, but hey, at least baby steps in terms of trying to figure out the issue of inconsistency that Orlando City has been battling throughout the season. Then we go to the next match, which is Toronto FC versus Nashville SC. And again, on paper, it looks like a one-sided affair. There's a couple of matchup this week where it's going to be very one-sided, but don't be surprised that just because it's one-sided, because it's MLS, there's that notion of anybody can beat anyone, and I have a feeling we could see some upsets in this one. Though this one might not be one of those, because Nashville is red hot right now, 9-4-3, and are chasing FC Cincinnati for that top spot in the Eastern Conference, while Toronto 3-9-5 this season. In terms of the all-time meeting, it's deadlock at 2 apiece, 2 wins, 2 draw, and 2 losses for both of these teams. Injuries for Toronto, still no Michael Bradley, still no Adama Diamande, Shane O'Neill, and Jonathan Osorio and Victor Vasquez. For Nashville, only player is out is Nick DePew, and Walker Zimmerman is getting very close in terms of coming back into the starting 11. So yeah, obviously this is a game on paper Nashville should win, and especially this is on the road, and especially knowing the fact that TFC has had problems, not only on the attacking front but also on the defense front, especially defending against a good transitional team like Nashville. Yeah, you would say that Nashville could win this one. Though you never know. Again, this is the thing about MLS. There's could be some surprising resort, and could be times where even some of the best team might have a bad game and might come out flat, and that's what Nashville is gonna have to try to avoid. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the message for Gary Smith and his team, that they can't just disrespect TFC. They have to show them some respect, and and go through this game professionally and get a win like they have been doing pretty much every single week for the past couple of weeks. But moving on, we got Chicago versus the Columbus Crew. So this again is another winnable game for Columbus on the road this season. That's been also one of the biggest problem for Columbus. I mean, it's not just the fact that there's times where they look exposed at the back because Wilfred Nancy tactics seems to push too many men forward, but also the roll form is still a problem. But this is a winnable one against a Fire team that is 3-8-5, while Columbus is 7-3-6. And this, of course, is the first of 3 games that's going to be starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. All-time meeting. It's a 29-35-24 lead for the Chicago Fire. In terms of injuries for the Fire, you got Los Tiran, Chris Mueller, Orjun, and also Pineda not available for Fire in this game. And then you also have Chris Brady and Jonathan Dean still making their way back into this team. For Columbus, no Mano Nick, no Will Sands for the rest of the season, no Gustavo Valencia, and no Josh Williams for this team. Questionable in this one: Luis Diaz, Alexander Matan, Kevin Molino, and Eloy Rome potentially be questionable coming into this one. Though most likely Patrick Schulte will still have the job for a bit. And I gotta say, for Patrick Schulte, I think he's done a good job in the backup role. I mean, he's not perfect. There's been times that he's been making some mistakes, but that's expected when you have a second string goalkeeper. But I thought he's done a good enough job. But there's no doubt that once Eloy Rome is healthy, he's going to be back between the sticks for Columbus. But like I said, it's a winnable game for Columbus. Though again, Chicago, they have had some games where they have provided some good performances. But the question is, can they hold on to the lead? That's been pretty much the biggest question for the Fire for this season, and really for the past couple of years. Can they not go full Chicago Fire and lose in some of the most painful full way they can imagine, or even drop points in the most painful way imagine? But moving on, we got Houston versus LAFC. So this is kind of an interesting one because this is kind of a one I could use the saying an immovable object versus an unbreakable force. And in the case of the Houston Dynamo, this season they have pretty much been all but perfect at home. I mean, they've only lost once this season at home, and they fresh off of probably the best showing on the road that they had in years with a 4-1 win against the Chicago Fire and carry that momentum against an LAFC team that they're going to be pissed after the last game. I mean, the last game, they play a really good game, but they just ran into Raguzan, and that's why they got a 0-0 draw out of that one. But the record is still pretty good, 7-5-1. And in terms of the all-time meeting, well, it's been pretty much one-way traffic. LAFC has dominated the all-time meeting with a 5-5-1 record. For Houston, no Achara, no Tini Hidabi, no Tate Schmidt. And questionable in this game is Daniel Steres. For LAFC, no Maxine Crepeau, no Sergio Palencia, and Aaron Long. And questionable in this game is Calvin Acosta and Timothy Tillman. But yeah, this should be an interesting one because again, the Dynamo, they have been very good at home this season, but now they're facing against a team that could be easily even better on the road, and especially again against an LAFC team. Steve Cherundolo team wants to get themselves back on track. Like that last game against Atlanta United wasn't just a fluke. That this is still a reminder is one of the best team in the league, if not the best team in the league, according to multiple media sources, and they're hungry to try to climb themselves up back at the top of the Western Conference, which is not that far. I mean, they're not that far below the below St. Louis for that top spot, and with so many game in hand over them, don't be surprised they'll be back there, even if they don't win all those game in hand. But that being said, I am now going to change boards and look at the last 6 games to finish off match week number 17. Also, did I say match week number 17? I meant match week number 18. Again, it's kind of confusing because most of these teams are playing their 17th game and are pretty much right about to hit the halfway point of the season. But nevertheless, moving on, we got Sporting KC versus Austin FC. So Sporting KC 4-5-8, while Austin 5-4-7. And in terms of the all-time meeting, Austin has had the upper edge. 3-1-1 is the all-time record against Sporting KC. For Sporting KC, Tim Melia still out in this game, followed by Courtney Ford, who's done for the season, Caden Pierre, Graham Susie, William Agata, and Johnny Russell. For Austin, only 2 players out, but it's their key backline pieces, Zan Komanich and Leo Vestanen, not available for Austin in this one. Now, obviously, I think coming into this game, for Austin, I mentioned the phrase 1 step forward, 2 step back, and now it seems like it could be 2 step back again because again, Sporting KC they're started to be cooking again, and they're started to go on a really good run, and this is another opportunity for them to get a result because this season, after they finally broke that ice with that win against Seattle. They've been playing much better both on the road and at home, but especially at home. They've been unbeatable so far at home. In fact, I don't think they have actually even lost a game ever since they finally get their first win in their 11th game of the season. And for Austin again, with just inconsistency see this season for this team and also a team that's been very mediocre. I don't know. They might have a shot in this one against a decent Sporting KC team. But you never know. We'll see how this game is going to turn out. Speaking of a team that also might not have a lot of shot on the road, is NYCFC. So unfortunately for NYCFC, they're back on the road, a place that has been a house of horror for them this season. And they're going to be playing against RSL in this one. RSL 5-4-7 and NYCFC 4-5-7. And again, RSL coming off of a bit of a high in that U.S. Open Cup win against the Galaxy, while NYCFC, of course, did not play in the middle of the week, but they did play last week, and it was not a good result of them. A 0-0 draw against New England. 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific is the start of this game. All-time meeting, RSL does have the all-time meeting favor over NYCFC 4-0-2. In terms of injuries for RSL, no Zach Farnsworth, no Eric Holt, and questionable in this game is Zach McMath and Brian Oviedo. For NYCFC, only player that is out is Thiago Martins, who's, as I mentioned in the News of the Week episode, he's going to be undergoing knee surgery, but it's not going to be one that's going to keep him out for a very long time. And especially when I also heard that there is news that, Tati Castellanos could be back with NYCFC. It seems like Girona decided to not renew his 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 loan deal and not actually buy him permanently, which is kind of odd because I thought he had a good season for Girona and that they did not actually take the bait there to buy him outright. But yeah, he is back with NYCFC. Now there is a question whether or not if he's going to contribute, and I would say that this is the thing about NYCFC where it's pretty clear that they need a number 9. They got a number 9 in Tati Castellanos. And I know they want to sell him off in the summer transfer window, but with the state of how NYCFC is right now, I think they might even reconsider selling Tati Castellanos this summer and maybe wait until the winter because they desperately needed a proven goal scorer like Tati Castellanos. And yeah, I can guarantee you that if Tati Castellanos is back in this team, he would make this NYCFC team 10 times better than where this team is currently is. So yeah, we'll see whether or not if he is going to be back with this team and back playing for, or is he just going to be sold off to somewhere else? Is that is kind of the intention NYCFC is thinking about? But either way, it's not going to be an easy game because again, playing against RSL, a team that has had their issue this season at home, but against an NYCFC team that has really struggled this season on the road, you would expect them to get the win in this one. Now, moving on, in the next match, we got the San Jose Earthquakes versus the Philadelphia Union. So again, this is another matchup, just like the Houston versus LAFC game. It's basically the immovable object versus the unstoppable force. In this case, for the Quakes, they're kind of the immovable object. They have been untouchable this season at home. In fact, I think they're one of the few teams that actually have a perfect record so far this season at home. They have not lost a single home game. They have made PayPal Park look like just as big of a fortress as it was when it was still called Avaya Stadium a couple of years ago. Whereas they're facing against a Union team that is one of the hottest team right now in the league. 9 straight games without a loss, 9 games unbeaten run with a 9-3-4 record, and are charging up the Eastern Conference again. 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, as this along with the Vancouver and FC Cincinnati game also with the same time. But in terms of the all-time meeting, 5-4-4 in favor of the Union. But recently, Quakes has had their problems against the Philadelphia Union. They have had their struggle against them. Now, injuries for the Quakes. Nathan is the only player that is out for this game, though he's going to be out for the season. And questionable is Carlos Acapo. For the Union, questionable in this one is Ali Bedoya and Damian Lowe. And yeah, it should be an interesting one. And again, I would say that this is just as big of a test as it was against LAFC, where you're playing against a Union side that they've been an unstoppable force. They've been on a vengeance run ever since they lost that CCL semifinal to LAFC, and I know the Quakes has had that ability at times to be able to halt a team that's been on a red hot streak, but we'll see whether or not that is going to be the case. I mean, if they can get a win in this would definitely send a message to the rest of the league that yeah, the Quakes, they can hang with anyone, especially at home. I know that this season so far, when you look at most of the home games they play, it hasn't been really tough opponents, maybe besides LAFC, but this is the true test, and we'll see how they of course would do, and let's see whether they can get a win. I mean, I don't expect a win in this one. I'll be happy if they can get a draw out of this game, but yeah, if they can get a win in this game, that will really send a message to the rest of the league that hey, yeah, the Quakes are they are definitely a team to watch. Now, moving on. So this game again is very similar to the Quakes versus Union game, and that Vancouver this season they've been very at home and they're coming off of a high after winning the Canadian Championship. But obviously, after when you win something, it's not going to be easy to come back again and have that full energy because again, you usually think that is the case, but there's also that certain letdown, and we'll see whether if that's going to be the case against an FC Cincinnati team that talk about a team that is even hotter than the Union. I think they're the only team that is hotter right now than the Philadelphia Union. They're on a record pace of run right now with a 12-3-1 record, while Vancouver 5-6-5. Now, in terms of the all-time meeting, if Cincinnati is gonna get a win in this one, it would be the first one because they have not won against Vancouver, albeit there's only 2 other meetings between them and the Vancouver Whitecaps with a 1-0 record in favor of Vancouver. Only player out for Vancouver is Ali Ahmed, and only player out for well, actually, there's 2 players out for FC Cincinnati. No Sergio Santos or Brenner, but in theory, it's really just Sergio Santos that is out because you can kind of consider Brenner is not going to be back with this team with him moving on to Udinese pretty soon. So yeah, overall, this should be another interesting one to watch because we know the Whitecaps has been red hot this season whenever they've been pretty much almost been untouchable this season at home at BC plays, and it's not going to be easy for FC Cincinnati to be able to come in to get the victory. Though again, FC Cincinnati has been proven in that not only they've been untouchable at home, they've also been untouchable for most part on the road too. And when you play against a team with such a confident, it's not going to be easy for the Vancouver Whitecaps in this game. So we'll see how this game, of course, would turn out. But now moving on into the Sunday game, and the Sunday game starts with St. Louis versus the Galaxy, and this is a really early Sunday game. It's actually a lunchtime kickoff in this 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. It's a 12 o'clock noon kickoff in this one. St. Louis 9-1-5, while the Galaxy 3-3-9. Now, what's also interesting in this game is that this is a battle between the team that is at first place versus the team that is dead last in the standings. Now, normally when you see that, you're thinking, "Oh, that's an easy win for the team at the top of the standings." Not so fast. This is MLS after all. We have seen some crazy things has happened in this league. But nevertheless, this is the first ever meeting in terms of players out for St. Louis. Their star center back Joachim Nelson still out with this team. Chris Glover also out with this team. Questionable is Rasmus Elm and João Klaus. For the Galaxy, Sega Kuba Bali is out for this team, but I might as well also add Chicharito on that list. When I look at the injury list that MLS basically posts, it's actually not updated. It's been only updated like 3 days ago. And since the Chicharito injury just happened today, I probably should have also just put that on the list too. So yeah, with the way that the Galaxy, of course, losing Chicharito for the rest of the season, that is definitely going to to hurt, and it's going to be a bit of a loss for this Galaxy team. But questionable in this one is Chris Mavinga, and yeah, again, this is a game that you could say it's easy to say St. Louis can get the win. But remember, St. Louis did also play midweek, and it was kind of a weird situation where they only played 40 minutes against FC Dallas so that they can finish off of what happened in their game in May when it was delayed because or it was suspended because of lightning. So it's a short rest for St. Louis. We'll see how they can react. Though again, they're playing against another team that is also playing on short rest, and especially they unlike St. Louis, they actually did play the full 90 minutes. So yeah, this should be an interesting kind of matchup. And again, you would think that the first place team St. Louis has got this one in the bag, and especially they've been pretty good at home this season. I think they only lost once this season at home. Yeah, you would think St. Louis should get the reserve, but not so fast. The Galaxy might have something to say. The Galaxy has at times pull off some surprising win this season, even though they're in a historic bad run this season. But we'll see how this game, of course, would turn out. And then finally, we finish off with the Portland Timbers versus FC Dallas. So last time that FC Dallas was in a game on national television, oh boy, it was just pure putrid in terms of what we saw in the game against Minnesota. And I'm worried that this could be the same case because Dallas. Yes, they got the 2-0 win against St. Louis, but still, I do have question in terms of the attack. And I still also have question about the attack for the Timbers too. I mean, they have been as toothless as Dallas has been. So yeah, again, I mean, this is the part where I wish MLS actually have flex scheduling, just like what we see in the NFL, because something tells me this could be a bit of an iffy game and a game that maybe some might not be enjoyable to watch this one. Though that being said, Timbers 4-5-7 and FC Dallas 7-5-5 all time it's 11-11-10 in favor of the Timbers. It's a slight advantage as this game is going to be starting at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and it's going to be on FS1. Injuries for the Timbers: no Felipe Mora, no David Ayala, no Eric Williamson, no Pablo Bonilla, and no Jimmy Chara in this one. Again, we've reiterate how bad the injury crisis has gone for this Timbers team. For Dallas, no Scott, no Paul Ariola, no Sebastian Leggett, no Ensembling, no Paxton Palmico, and no Ima Tumasi in this one too. So Dallas himself also has been going for a bit in terms of the injury bug lately, but again, I'm just praying that this is not going to be like what I saw when last time Dallas was in national television against Minnesota, where it was just a slogfest of a game. It was a game where I'm pretty sure everyone want to ask for their 90 minutes back because of how bad it was. And again, I just hope this is not going to be the case, and especially I hope that I won't be seeing a Portland Timbers game where it could be the second consecutive week they play in the most boring game this season, because let's face it, the Cascadia Derby in the last game, it was a huge letdown with the way that it just between two teams that just been so toothless in the past couple of games, and it's shown in this one, and with the way that is kind of the same with both of these teams too. Yeah, this this could be a slogfest. Don't be surprised. This could be, if there is a game that could be a no result, which it feels like every week we eventually get one or two of those. This might be on paper that could be a no resort. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at all of these games that's going to be happening in match week number 18. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games, and also make sure you leave your prediction for all these 14 games that's going to be happening in match week number 18. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.